members of the board. I'll go through my budget and my continuing initiatives that we have is to improve route efficiency and to better serve the students. This plan's been an ongoing initiative since the grade banding plan was first approved. We know that there's improvements we have to make. I've already met with Dr. Luro, and Kathy and I have our work cut out for us. But better to us do it because no one knows the district better than we do. Okay. We continue to work with athletics to reduce overtime and spending for sports, and we continue to utilize shared services. We've partnered with other districts that have children that attend out of district schools, and we do some ride share with them. Okay, some of our enhancements we have in student safety for this on the bus this year. We continue to utilize a web-based program for our transportation buildings and grounds personnel. It's the same program, GCN program, that the teachers also use and everyone else in the district. This year in February, when we did our New York State required refresher, we also had our representatives from Altaris come in, and we did a number of tabletop exercises with the drivers as far as, when you pull up to a school and the light's flashing on the outside of the building, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What decisions are you going to make? You pull up in front of the school and the kids are pouring out of the building, and what are you going to do? Load those kids on the bus, get out of here, where are you going with them? Okay, we want to make sure that our drivers feel comfortable and are empowered to make those decisions on their own without having to, ask for permission to do things. Okay, we received delivery on 2 72-passenger Type D buses. Finally, we got them in January. We ordered them in right after the budget was passed in May. So it took quite a while. There's a lot of backlog in the receipt of vehicles. We completed installation of the new lifts at the bus garage, and that was something that was in our ban 2 budgets ago. We finally, got all the equipment we needed to get that installed, and finally we're done. The project is finished. We did originally want to put 2 lifts in, but because of increased cost, we were able to only put 1 lift in. So, that was a big hit for us. We really wanted to get that second side completed, but right now we're able to work with what we have, and we're able to get the jobs done. Okay, we also installed external stop arm cameras. We joined as a pilot program with Bus Patrol, and I know you guys have seen me, on TV, and apparently I was on TV in Rockland County this morning. And we did that to collect data for Westchester County so that they can see that this is a problem. In this community, it's a problem in Westchester. It's a problem in New York State. In New York State, 50,000 buses are passed a day. 50,000 school bus passes a day, right? So we're trying to get Westchester on board, and we're still pushing. I know that a number of the superintendents, including Mr. Hockreiter, had sent a letter to Mr. Latimer's office. We're still pushing. Okay, so we're still trying to get through with that. Okay, we can go through my line-by-line items. So my district transportation non-instructional salaries, that's an increase of $149.10, and that represents 4 halves of employees. So Anthony and I share, Buildings and Grounds and I share our employees, so half the expenses in Anthony's budget and half the expenses in my budget. So that's where that $149.10 comes from, and that's a 9.1% increase. My non-instructional chauffeurs line, that's an increase of $55.47. That's a 1% increase. And that covers their raise based on the CSEA contract. My chauffeurs in the handicap line also, that's an increase of $6,867, also a 1% increase. Non-instructional overtime, that's $1,788, also 1%. Field trips we increased a little bit because of the grade banding model and more field trips going on. We increased that by $1,200, so that's a 4.6% increase. And our sports we increased by $2,000, and merely to cover the increase in the CSEA contract. Okay, my equipment line stays the same. My contractual expenditures is increased by $5,000. I'm seeing increases in my rental for our two-way radios on the buses, and also some of our other little things that we have contractual contractors with. Right, that's a 3.2% increase. Materials and supplies, that's the line that I pay for all the parts to repair the buses. And that increased by $9,500. I find myself having to continue to move money into that budget line. So I increased it by that $9,500 in the hopes that I don't have to do a number of budget transfers in order to meet the needs of the repairs. So that's a 10% increase there. Gas and diesel, right now we're paying about $2.59 a gallon still for diesel, and our gas prices are about $2.47, I think. I just looked at the bill today because I was just doing fuel billing. So without factoring in the new buses that I'm asking to purchase and changing around some of the Princeton plan, we're looking at an increase of $8,989, and that's a 3.2% increase. Lubrication and oil, that's a $500 increase. That's only seen a slight raise in pricing. Tires and chains, that's an additional $5,500, which is 18.6%. Our insurance, so NYSER is telling us that we should look for about 11 or 12% increase, so that's why you're seeing those numbers there. So it's increasing by $5,368, which is an 11% increase. And then our umbrella excess liability is another $3,032, so that's a 12% increase. Okay, bus garage equipment, it's a $3,000 increase. We have to purchase a new system that reads the computers on the buses. Everything's now computerized, including our buses. So like, when you go with your car and you go to the dealer, they can plug it in. We do the same thing with the buses, and it gives us a reading as to where we're having issues. So that's a 12% increase in that line. Our garage contractual stays the same. Utility, our oil is the same, water stays the same, electricity is a big increase. I didn't have enough money in my budget to really cover the electricity use at the bus garage, so we had to increase by that. And Anthony did say that he's seeing a big increase there, so that's why that's a 20% increase. Okay, our property and general liability insurance, it's a $291 increase, so that too is 12%. And then materials and supplies at the garage is $273, and we use that line to purchase some of the office equipment that's in the garage, but also for purchasing, some of the harnesses and safety seats that our special ed children use. Okay, so my numbers on the bottom are a little skewed, and I apologize for that. The second column for 23-24, it should be 4046826. Apparently I transposed my numbers, and I apologize. The increase is 198,659, so it's a 5.1% increase. So those were right, but I transposed my numbers, and I apologize for that. I'm requesting for a vehicle proposition to purchase 2 Type B diesel-powered buses as per the established vehicle replacement plan. I'm asking for Type B because there's a delay in the reception of our Type D, which is usually what we purchase most often, which is the transit-style buses. If we were to try to purchase those, we wouldn't get delivery until January of 2025. So that would do us no good.
Can you quickly just, because I don't
Sure.
know what the difference is?
So the Type B is the conventional, which is the engine in the front, and the Type D is the transit style, the pusher, and the engine's in the rear. It's also a difference in cost. So this bus is about $30,000 less than the other bicycles. So if we based on a 3.5% interest rate on the van, it would be a yearly cost of $52,717. And then it's over 7 years. The van is 5 years, but we carry it out to 7 years because we use the buses that long. Okay. So my last part of my budget is the grade banding, the potential additional costs. If we stay in the current model, then we would need 7 monitors to add to the K1 buses. We've got an agreement with CSEA to use monitors for 3 months. I based it on the CSEA hourly rate for the chauffeurs, which is $27.31 an hour. We're looking though to use TAMA members to do this, and I know that Mr. Hochreiter had met with TAMA and had this discussion. I don't know how far that is, nor do I know who's interested in that, so that's where this number, this $26,763. So it's 7 monitors times 2 hours times 70 days, which would be the first 3 months of school. Okay, we would also need to purchase 2 additional buses. So that too would be the cost of $161,331 per vehicle. The ban would be for the $332,664. We would assume an interest rate of 3.5%. And so it would cost us $52,717 per year over, 5 years, and then we would extend out to the 7 years. Additional fuel, based on our current fuel costs, it would be an additional $10,339 for fuel for those buses. And we're assuming, based on what our current routes are, and that we would drive an additional 14,400 miles. So that's where we came up with that 10,000. Okay, and then the additional vehicle cost would be for maintenance and repairs and tires, and the 91 cents represents, the mechanics' hourly rate, and everything is all factored into that, and that's where that 91 cents came from. Times the 14,400 miles comes to 13,104 for a total of 100,223 per year.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, so 2 questions, one for you, Liz, and one for Enrique. So the first is, just to understand, so 102,000 per year, would this get this down to where the students would not be on the bus for more than a half hour? Would this fix our transportation problem, $102,000 a year?
I can't say that until I go through all the routes.
You're the expert.
Well,
Right? You're saying grade banding potential additional costs.
right, because we
Right,
would
this
have,
is
right, because
assuming.
I'm looking at if we stay in the current model,
Current model.
that I would have to add buses to each school.
Right, so, and that's what this is for, correct?
Correct.
You wouldn't need more buses than this, than you're asking for here in the additional grade banding.
Well, I'm asking for the 2 in the grade banding, I'm asking for 2 for the replacement.
Correct, but we need the 2 for the replacement anyway.
Correct,
Right, so it's just an
Correct.
additional 2.
correct.
So Enrique, to you, the question is, 102,000 per year is 0.2% in tax levy. Is that correct? To fix our transportation issue.
This is improved. I wouldn't put Liz in a position where she's saying it's fixed. This is to make improvements.
This was
She has to
worst
go.
case. This was presented
Right.
as the worst
This
case
is-
scenario.
This is,
That's what we said in finance.
Well, it
Hold on.
didn't, she didn't say that it would decrease bus times or solve anyone's
This
thing.
was to fix.
But what's the definition of fix?
To get it back to where it was.
to reduce the bus.
That's what-
That's
that's
not
what
what I
the-
heard in
that's
finance,
absolutely
that
what I
was
heard.
to get
She
it back
actually
where it
thought-
I
was.
can't promise you that kids are gonna be on a bus for 17 minutes like they were last year. I can't promise you that.
Would it be 20? I mean,
I don't know until I have to pull apart every single route and reroute every single
but
child.
that's what we need in this slide, right? We need in this slide, what is it gonna take to get transportation to where we need to be in the current model?
I think that what this is gonna do is it's gonna get transportation back to a more palatable place.
That's what I'm asking. So
That's
is it-
what it's gonna do.
So does it fix, if we're talking about 0.2% in tax levy, it's right, 20%, $500,000 is 1% in tax levy, this is 1/5 of that, so it's 20% of 1%, 0.2% in tax levy,
Corey, I don't think
to fix
we didn't,
transportation.
we didn't tell her, go to town and make it the 17 minutes that it was and make it equal. We said, how do you help? How do you help the problem? I don't wanna speak
perception,
for you,
No, I
She said
right?
it's palatable, so what would
So-
it be to get it to where we want it to be?
What I have, when I talked with finance and what I have spoken to Dr. Laura about was that it's important for me, because I had a hard time understanding what was given to me to do, all right, for this school year. So they had a consultant come, the district hired a consultant, the routes were made. So for me, looking at the routes, it didn't make sense as to why children are going on a tour of the district to get home every day.
Right.
So
Which is
my
all
feeling,
our
my
concern.
feeling is that we would regionalize the routes. So I have children that have BV school that need to go out to Furnace Woods, so we would put them on buses to express them, rather than going through, a number of the communities to get to there.
Yep.
So that's what my plan is. So Kathy and my secretary and I had a long conversation about it today, and that is absolutely what, honestly, we're starting tomorrow.
So if that's the case, right, I would love to know how much more it would be than $102,000 per year to get to where we want to be in transportation. And then I would love to balance that against what the cost would be to move to a different model. Right?
But also
Because
be,
0.2%.
yeah, but look at the monitors.
No.
The 7 monitors are only for 70 days. That's not for the school
Well,
year.
that's what I was about to say. I'm actually a little disappointed in this because I think parents want to see that we're looking at monitors on buses for more than 70 days, and that we have them available to us in case there's a problem. So I think we need to take that into consideration. And I think another thing that parents have really, discussed with us about the issues that they're having are the times they're waiting at bus stops, the fact that there's the gang bus stops where they're walking further to bus stops, and the crossing of double yellow lines has come up as well. We didn't address any of that.
So I want to know what it's going to cost to fix that.
Yes.
Right? That's what,
I'm
so
disappointed
if
that
we
this doesn't happen.
if we double this and it's $200,000 per year, we're still talking about 0.4% in tax levy to fix this. Right?
This,
Because that is the transportation.
This is just the transportation issue, right? But what are the other big issues?
well,
The transitions.
So the transitions, I
You
get,
can't fix that with a bus.
Not possible.
I know you can't fix that with
let,
the
let,
bus.
let me explain something that probably is not here. We put it here because Anthony needs it for help. We have, in order for you to work here as a custodian, you have to be a custodian driver.
Yeah.
Besides the head custodians, everyone has to drive. If you remember last week, Anthony said, I need 2 people. If we go back to the way we were, if we stay the way we are, I need 2 people because they used to be 2 more people. More if we stay the way we are, because instead of having a custodian at 9 in the morning to say, now it's coming at 9:30 because it's driving longer hours. So here we didn't add those 2 other half people because no matter what, we would need them.
So it's just this creating more complexity, right? I just want to know, what is it going to cost to fix
Yes. Well,
trans-
I think,
transportation?
okay, but
To get
what
anywhere we want.
I think we do need that, but I just wanna call attention to, this is a manual process. It will take Liz so much time and work to run all of this. So if this is truly an ask of the board, we need to have a majority that wants that information, because she is going to spend hours, and correct me if I'm wrong,
It's not hours, it's weeks.
weeks running these numbers. So if the board is in agreement that they want to stay in the 2 years and keep them in the same buildings, and you want to know how to bandage this up and make it look better, then we ask for that. But we can't ask for that and waste Liz's time if we're changing direction.
That's true.
That's fair, but how are we going to know if it's worth
Changing direction. because
changing
we're gonna
direction
limit-
if you don't know what the cost of fixing
No,
what we have is?
Yeah, but
I don't know if you have this answer, but did we Do we know the number of miles our buses traveled in the old model and the number
Yes.
of miles traveled in the new model?
In my head
Because
right now.
Corey, also, remember that this is
Yeah.
in addition to what we have today.
Yes. Right, so,
That's what
so,
I'm saying.
so this, again, Enrique, this is not, it's not a fair representation then, because I'm thinking, I see $100,000 extra per year to fix transportation, that's nothing in the grand scheme of things,
But,
right? But if you're telling me there's a lot more hidden embedded costs that's not,
no.
Here?
What
No.
it says here is grade banding, if we stay in the grade banding, this is potential additional cost to today.
We get that.
No, but
Right,
I-
he
I-
says on top of
I-
that.
I'm saying,
I get that,
so-
but we,
And so, if we go back to one of our presentations that we said, we're going to be driving 80,000 miles more, $4 or whatever per mile and everything, then this is in addition. So whatever that number was there,
I completely understand
Okay.
that, right? I just want to make sure that we have all the right data to make a good decision.
of course.
And if we don't have that data, we can't say the model that we're proposing here makes sense, because we can't go back to the community and say, well, we made a mistake, right? The mistake we made last time is we didn't do enough due diligence, we didn't get enough success metrics, we didn't get enough data. I'm asking for the data, I'm asking for the success metrics. I'm asking for all the things that we didn't get last time, and I want to make sure that we're doing all our due diligence before we make another big decision that's going to disrupt the community for another long period.
Okay, we made a mistake and we're not making the same mistake. I totally agree.
Okay,
However, this is a budget, this is just a budget presentation. If that's what you want, definitely for the next week or for whenever the board says, we'll bring you the comparison as close as possible
yeah.
of what would be Princeton plan against neighborhood schools based on what the match written last year and this year. That's the best that we can do, but
Which is
that's,
great.
but that's what I think you want.
That's so,
But
and I
it's just
defer,
around transportation.
it's not just transportation,
Right, and so
correct.
let's-
It's all the costs and success metrics, and this is where I defer to Dr. Lauro with his expertise to say, how do we compare where we are today to where we need to be tomorrow, and what makes the most sense based on that, from a cost perspective, from a student education perspective, from an SEL perspective, from a DEI perspective. There are lots of positives and negatives to all the different
The slides
models
you
that we
shared
have
with me
to
2
weigh.
weeks ago, I think would be really helpful for the rest of the board to see. I think would be really helpful for the community. We heard from the comments from the community tonight that people want to see these numbers. So I think if you could present that in a way for all of us to, because you walked me through it and it was really helpful for me. So I think the whole entire community and all the trustees would really benefit.
I totally agree. I'm not defending us, you're completely right. I'm just saying, today was a budget presentation based, given that no one knows, because you don't know, Dennis doesn't know, no one knows what kind of plan we're going to be next year. So we just have to go through, we are assuming that if we stay, this will be the extra cost. That's all this is. I totally agree. For you to make a different decision, which is, should we go to neighborhood, half neighborhood, whatever, you need a lot more than this.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But to Corey's original point, this is not what we really needed to begin with, right? Because the goal here was, to whatever budget we were gonna put forward next year, if we're in this current model, was to try to fix some of the problems that we've heard from parents over and over and over again. This doesn't address any of them. So, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you to go back to the drawing board, but I do think do you have any idea, because we asked this and we never really got it, and it's not your fault. We never got like what the average bus time is, what the median bus time is. how many children are on a bus more than 35 minutes? Because the goal ultimately of this, and what was promised to the community, was that kids wouldn't really be on the bus longer than 35 minutes. That was our initial goal, right? We didn't get there. And I think parents, that was the solve, right? I mean, that's the fix. That's the goal.
Yeah, we want the buses to be on time, we want the kids to be
Right.
on a short ride. We want to have monitors on the bus because we didn't anticipate there would be problems without the diverse ages of kids
Yeah,
on
we
the
also
bus.
don't want kids standing and sitting on the floors. This doesn't
Right.
address that.
Well, it also doesn't
I don't
address,
think it
so,
does.
so bus times can't be the only
This
measure
was to
either.
address kids having enough seats, and this
It's
was,
just one, it's just
this
one.
was to address kids having enough
I know
seats,
that
both
helps.
middle school and elementary school, so that's not true. We did talk about gang buses, but you did say you'd have to get back to us, or gang bus stops.
That's what I wanted to hear.
And the double lines, you did take an action to go look at that. So I mean, I don't think that it doesn't not address them, I think she needs to build a detailed schedule.
Well,
to
because I'm
approve
putting
that.
my budget together, I wasn't putting together
Correct, a bus route,
presentation, you know, like, had we,
I
you know, it's
understand.
a whole different subject, and
Another thing we didn't.
I think that, you know, that wasn't something that I was supposed to include in here, but, you know, this is a conversation that we've had, and I know. And, you know, kids crossing WL lines, and, you know, I know all that. I have 6 kids in this district, 6 grandkids in this district. I know all of it, I know. All right, and I hear them, I hear the parents. I didn't create these bus routes.
I totally
Okay.
understand.
And when they were given to me and I expressed my concern about them, I was told not to change them. When I added a bus to Frenchie and added a bus to BV, I, you know, heard that I shouldn't have done that without permission. So, you know, I was hired to do transportation. That's what I was hired by the board to do. And so, you know, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and I also just wanna, I know that we have the CSD contract here, and they agreed to this, which is wonderful, but I think we do need to make sure that we have other monitors, like, on standby, right? That's part of the budget, in case there's an issue, right? Didn't we discuss that earlier in the year?
CSEA only agreed to 3 months. So,
Won't be that long.
Okay.
No, but you have a valid point.
right.
We cannot, we can try to find substitute chauffeurs for next year, and we can do it for the whole year.
As needed, I don't think we need 20 of them, right?
But my idea, our idea here was for us to have a discussion, are you comfortable with this extra cost?
Oh, yeah.
Or,
I was actually thinking it was gonna be more, because we had
I was
discussed.
going to say that, or maybe you want even more, given that it's only 102,000 and you were
I think
expecting.
that's what, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
So,
why we did the
the
presentation.
idea here was to have this discussion and for the board to tell us, hey, I want 7 monitors, but 180 days. And whatever that number is, put it in the budget.
Right, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe, Dennis, we can discuss with the board and have that specific presentation that I made to Alexandra and to Alexis about the cost
Okay.
comparison, separate to the budget so we can make a decision.
Yeah, because we haven't seen that, like, I
So
haven't
why don't we
seen
just
that.
do it in
seen
public, so everybody has it?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. We'll do it. I think
They're
that
asking.
next
We
week.
can do that next week.
We can do it next week. It's already done. Next week, we have 2 major presentations, but we can do it. We
Time is of
Music
the
and art.
essence. If you want us to make a decision, then we need this data.
Finally
Okay,
getting my-
then
Does everybody
let's
else
do it
do that?
next week.
How many bus runs are there per elementary, well, for the
How many buses?
BB Frenchie run? How many are there in the morning and how many are there in the afternoon, and how many are there for Furnace Woods in the morning and the afternoon?
Furnace Woods is 7 in the morning and 7 in the afternoon. And then Frenchie BV combined, I use 12 buses to get them into school in the morning because they're combined. And then going home, I have 7 at Frankie Lindsay and there's 7 at BV.
So, how do we get 7 monitors for 2 hours? That doesn't,
Because it
that's,
would be K1.
oh, you're only gonna do
Yeah.
K1, so, okay.
Since we're doing, Margaret, you're doing your budget the next meeting, right?
Yes.
It would be helpful because Margaret's budget could change too if we go a different route.
Yes.
So for her to give one and then another, like, this is just budget season and this is what we're doing. I think for me and for the community, so I could make a decision, we have this model is this bottom cost and these are the pros and the cons. This model is this bottom cost and here are the pros and the cons. But to do it at each one of these, it's just way too confusing.
No, that's true, so that's true. I agree, but what Corey's original ask was, and what my ask is, we cannot, fixing any problem at only $100,000 with the current plan that we asked them to do doesn't fix any of our problems, right? So
Or
this,
validate if it does fix.
right. So like, I understand this is just a budget presentation, but on the surface level, this doesn't solve the monitor issue for families. I think we need monitors, not just on K1 buses. Like, when did we discuss that? Like, this is not, to me, this, I hear you, that this is, but if this was what we're staying in Princeton plan next year, this is the presentation we're getting, this is not enough to fix, for me to fix the issues we have. I think that's what so I know that's a big statement to make, but and I'm not on finance, but this does not address our concerns.
But I think the biggest problems in transportation were the way that the routes were developed, and I think that changing the way that the routes were developed, I think will make significant improvements.
Okay.
And we can do that with existing buses or with the additional buses too? So going from 7 on the route to 9 on the route?
It depends on what plan you take. It depends on what plan you take.
Okay, and I would love, if the board is up for that, I would love to see that. I don't want you working weeks on this. I know it's gonna take time, but, I don't think we have weeks
No, we
to
don't.
get
No, we
answers.
So, let me ask a question because I'm new. We don't have an automated bus,
We use Transfinder, but
You do.
someone has to sit there.
put
and-
the data points in. I understand that. But
Correct.
that, isn't that
Every
in there
student's-
already?
Every student's geocoded.
Isn't it in there though?
Yes, but I still have to develop the routes. Because right now, as the routes exist, so now we have to take the database, move it over, and then start to
Okay,
go through we have to go student by student.
so let me ask, can you have that for next week?
No. Not if I want a secretary.
What would it,
Sure.
well, what
Walk
would it
out the
take?
door.
What help can we provide to get it done? We don't have the time to answer. It has a larger impact
I
on,
understand that, but there's no way it'll be done in a week.
But
we'll talk about it. I think what you need is parameters. So, I heard two things, let me ask this of the board. I heard somebody saying 17 minutes, and then I heard 34 minutes, and I know there were 60-minute bus routes. What are we satisfied with? What are we aiming at? What's what do you want, never, not to exceed that?
So when Princeton plan was proposed and when it was voted on by the board, it was 35 minutes was what they were told.
That was.
Maximum was 35 minutes.
Okay.
And that's where the major disappointment came in September. So the solve is 35 minutes and no more. That's where we landed, that's what we were told.
It's gotta be more than just bus time, no? Because, do you want a kindergartner picked up at 8:02 and dropped off at 4:04? That's a fairly long day for a 5-year-old.
Yeah, but
He
that's,
may be on a bus for 35
That's the same,
minutes,
no
but if he's out of his
matter
house
what
for 8 hours a day, or she's out of his house, I think it's a long time for a 5-year-old.
We can't
But
control.
how's that?
yeah, but that's not, but what we were, I think what Dr. Laura was saying is what was our goal originally? Right?
What was our
Well-
length before? What was our longest rides before Princeton was?
26 minutes.
I think that's that.
I
35
mean,
minutes is a long time
35
for a
minutes is long, but
5-year-old.
that was when
Look at
when it was
26.
presented,
Let's
that's
just
what
get
it
it.
was.
So
So
we'll,
26?
we'll do the 26, see what it looks like, we can go to 35, and we can do the problem. I don't know if we're gonna save a bus or two, but I think we need to solve the problem.
Yes.
And if it's 26, then we can satisfied with it's 26.
We should have just ensure whatever the longest bus ride was, that's what we go with. like the old previous, just make sure before we say it's 26, because we've heard longer than 26 here. We've heard other parents say they've had 35 minutes before. So we just want to make sure that we're on par. People said it.
I have a
And more importantly, that they're on time. Like, I know we don't want people standing around not getting their bus as
Yeah, to
they're
Jeremy's
expected.
point. Yeah, to Jeremy.
So I have a non-principal plan question. So your costs are increasing for materials and supplies, for tires and chains. Is that because of the cost of goods or that?
Cost of goods.
Okay, so that's just inflation that's going up. It went up last year, it's gone up again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, and then explain the 4 new half people plus AFA's half people. What are they doing and why do we need 4 new people on the staff?
So a number of years ago, when, I don't even know who the superintendent was, we lost a number of positions, the number of custodial driver positions, as people, because we went through a, big budget crisis and, so we lost a number of positions. We never gained those positions back. And, Anthony just feels very strongly that he needs to have these people in the building.
And he needs all 4 this year. Okay, thank
So
you.
they're 2 a.m.
Well-
and 2 p.m., right? Like that's how,
I think that was his
yeah,
point.
that was.
It's just a big jump is all. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I never heard that you needed another bus, another lift. That was, when you
So
said this,
when we-
that was the first time.
So 2 budgets ago,
Yeah.
not this one, but 2 before that,
Yeah,
we put in for a band to do lifts at the bus garage. Because our lifts had failed inspection, and so we were going through a whole big thing. And so we did go to the band, and the plan was to put 2, and it was a $500,000 band, and that's what we were gonna do was those. But when they finally, after COVID, came back with everything, the price for the first lift was so high because the cost of everything had gone up so much that we didn't have enough money left over to do the second lift. So we've since done some repairs to that lift. It's passed inspection, it's able to be used, we can use it. Eventually in a great world, we would love to replace the second lift, but right now, I didn't plan for that to be done.
okay. I just want to, you're below the 500, well below it now. And if it's only 75,000
No,
and
it's not.
100,000.
No, the one we put in was supposed to be 300,000, I think it cost us closer to 400,000.
Okay.
And we
They
had
need
put,
to ask for
and we had put $500,000 in there, so.
So Enrique, is that subject to state aid? Because now that our state aid is increased, does that mean the cost would go down and?
Definitely, it says
Sustainable
it's
expense.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get Liz that lift if there's any way we can do that
Well,
with
now
state
our,
aid.
sorry to interrupt. This next year, our transportation rate goes from 12% to 32%.
There you go.
So that 400,000 will be 280 for us.
Yeah, that's great.
Can we put it in the building conditions plan and just add it to that?
Usually,
It's not.
everything that has to do with buses, we do it in a separate proposition. And so Dennis, for some reason, and I don't know why, in the 16 years that I've been here, the bus proposition passes with more votes than anything else.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what people want.
I don't know why, it's just interesting that people might say no to the budget, but
And
yes
vote
to
yes on
get
buses.
new buses. I'm just giving you a,
Oh, that's good.
what?
And what's the depreciation for a normal lift? It's gotta be over 10 years, right?
Oh, the lift we had was 20-something years old.
So you've got that too, right? You've got the depreciation expense over time, you got the additional state aid. It sounds like fiscally we could do this, right?
Let's discuss it, because, again, the one thing, it really will depend on
The rest of the budget.
the rest of the budget. I was going to say, if we can bring down the tax levy to a manageable number, below 2%, I think that we can solve the sense. I definitely do.
Great, thank you.
So just one of the other things that we discussed in finance that we didn't discuss here is electric buses.
Here.
Enrique and I actually have a meeting with a representative from Bird Bus and a grant writer. You know, I just came back from my conference up in Albany, and everybody up there, all the experts are all saying that it's gonna be pushed past 2025. And, you know, there's like this magic fund of, you know, $500 million out there for, you know, people. But we'll see. We haven't qualified for you know, a grant before, but you know, Bird Bus has a company and a person that they hired just to do grant writing. So we're gonna meet with them on the 21st of March, and we'll see where that takes us.
Does the fact that we produce solar help us in any way? Because,
No.
Oh, just asking.
No, but we also then will have to look eventually at the infrastructure of the garage. Because that's,
Yeah, electric is good.
yeah, and we're gonna have to, you know, put charging stations inside because having them outside is not conducive to good charges, and so it's a whole big long list of things we'll have to do eventually.
Is the bus garage part of our APC with Siemens?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No?
Thank you.